Welcome back into League of Our Own with myself, Goran Paladin, and this guy, Addin Blair, the legend of the Kiwis, the NRL. Blairy, how are you, man? Good to see you again.
I'm good, Goran, and it's always good to see you, brother. It's that time of the week. We talk all things, obviously, Warriors and their team, and obviously Kiwi players in there. So I'm always excited for this time of the weekend. It's not too bad, the timing at your end as well.
Yeah, lovely, mate. It's at the moment just 9:15 of an evening, so who knows? I might get to bed before midnight once I've finished recording and editing this. But listen, mate, I want to give you an option. We've got one of two paths to go down initially here on League of Our Own today. Do we take path A, which is moaning, bitching and griping about Wayde Egan not making New South Wales Origin, or do we go down the other path and celebrate the New Zealand Warriors 5 matches straight in the NRL competition for 2025? They've been on the road. They're the road Warriors, mate, but they are returning home to Go Media Mount Smart Stadium this weekend. A huge clash against the Raiders. I feel like I've just talked myself into the latter.
I think just the energy that you had there, Goran, is always going to be second option. So let's go after it.
Mate, it's going to be huge. And, but before we talk about the fixture as an entity, I just want to give you a sense of what's going on in Auckland City at the moment. I know that the Warriors have been away, but I think there's definite excitement about their return, and it's coupled with the fact that we've got a football team, round ball, soccer, that's doing so well in the A-League, and they're playing on Saturday night. If they beat the Melbourne Victory, they qualify to the A-League Grand Final for the very first time, and New Zealand hosts it. And it will be at Mount Smart. So there's just this huge sort of groundswell of sporting support, if you like, in Auckland City at the moment. And I reckon once the New Zealand Warriors take to the field on Sunday, they'll definitely feel that against the Raiders.
It's awesome, Goran. I guess New Zealand's, what a country New Zealand is first and foremost. And to be such a small country and have so much good things happen inside our country, it's crazy. And obviously Auckland FC, obviously from their inception, they've gone after it. They've created an audience, they've created a fan base. The funny thing, they've created it all at Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart, and like the Warriors, have sold out their games this season. And what an exciting opportunity Auckland have, both for the Warriors and also Auckland FC to put on a show of a weekend for everyone to keep entertained. So, it's exciting times, and I can't wait to see how these results all pan out, that's for sure.
And when you look at the Warriors and the team that they're going to take into this encounter against the Raiders, you'd have to say that they are down on some serious firepower. Mitch Barnett, obviously included in the New South Wales Origin side for Wednesday week. And then no James Fisher-Harris. As quickly as he arrived, he goes away because of a shoulder against the Dolphins, which almost let the Dolphins in through the door, right at the death there. So, I want to tidy up that sort of thing. But no big boppers. So that sort of leaves me feeling a little bit uncomfortable given what we saw in round 1, Las Vegas, and the criticism of the Warriors in the opening round of the season was that the platform wasn't set, it wasn't laid, and players like Luke Metcalf, Chanel, Chance out the back, they weren't able to do the things that they do. So I suppose there's a little bit of concern, Blairy, heading into this match against the Raiders because those big boys aren't there. How are you feeling about the prospects of the home side?
Yeah, I think it's a concern. Two of your most influential front rowers, co-captains. I know that James Fisher-Harris hasn't been in the team, but Mitch Barnett's been out there and he's carried this team through just pure power and I guess his leadership, and he's got them into a pretty strong position alongside obviously the team behind him. But when you down star power or quality leadership on the back of what we're saying, and I know that was a long time ago now, round 1 against the Canberra Raiders, which I reckon would be still stinging them at some point, that they would have had a chance to go back and look. Yes, the game's moved on since then, but they won't want to have that same result as they did in Vegas on their home soil at Go Media Stadium, Mount Smart, in front of their home fans that will turn up in their flock. It's sold out. what a great atmosphere it's going to be. But it's a little bit concerning. Two of the most influential front rowers in their team sitting on the sidelines, or one sitting on the sidelines, the other one in Origin camp. It gives opportunities now to someone like Jackson Ford, who we've spoken about here, even a thought that he could be in Origin, somewhere down the line. Gives him an opportunity to lead from the front now, which I think he can do. Does he have the same, I guess, aura or leadership of those other two? I don't think so, but he can still get a job done. It also gives an opportunity to someone like Bunty, who, a fan favourite, Bunty, back fence. He's back fence all day. People love seeing what Bunty do, but you're up against this Canberra Raiders side who are just finding a way purely just as a team that scraps for everything. And they will want to do exactly the same thing as what they did to the Warriors in round one and go after them. So, yeah, it's a little bit concerning. I just hope that the Warriors are prepared to go after them and continue to keep the form up that they have been doing that has got them into this position, but going to be a tough ask.
We obviously take a little bit of time to look at our own patch, if you like, and so we focus solely on Fish and Barnett not being there. But on the other side of the field, their big boppers, they're all intact. And, I honestly thought, given his start to the season and the way he got his body right, he's been demoted to reserve grade, but he's come back. And that's Big Red, Corey Horsburgh. He's been immense for the Green Machine. I'm struggling to understand why he's playing against the Warriors this weekend. He should be with Billy Slater's Queensland Origin side. So you've got an absence of firepower and leadership for the Warriors through the middle of the park, and then the Raiders are intact with Joe Tapine as well, who he shows no signs of slowing down, does he? And he's just as epic as he's always been. But one thing that really did excite me about the weekend just gone, the Warriors up against the Dolphins, was the left edge attack. And I wonder whether the Raiders will be able to contain the likes of Leka Halasima, who has found a home as a starter on the left-hand side, Addin Pompey, whose feet took him a long way against the Dolphins. There was one run very late in the game, which was brilliant, and then the return of Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who looks like he doesn't miss a beat. He's been out with an injury, comes back and runs for nearly 200 meters. So, yeah, while you're lacking something through the middle, and of course we hope that Jackson Ford and Bunty and maybe even Tom Ale do a reasonable job, you've got this incredible strike power out wide, which really does soothe the soul, Blairy.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously Hudson Young's, I think he's the only one that's missing from the Canberra Raiders side that pretty much most of them would have played against them in round one. And they've got some outstanding players, this Canberra Raiders team, that are going up against a Warriors team with a little bit of lack of leadership. But that left edge, like you said, Leka has found himself a home out there. We know Addin Pompey's got the biggest left foot in the competition. Winds that up and scored some great tries last time he played against his team. And, obviously the return of Roger, who is the ultimate professional. The one thing that I'm glad about Goran is that Coach Webster hasn't put him into the centres, even though there's a centre spot available. Yeah. He's trusted. He's given the trust to the man that fixes everything, Kurt Capewell. So love that he's kept him on the wing. Love that left side's real strong. But we all know where the game's won and lost. Big Red, Corey Horsburgh, had a field day alongside Joseph Tapine in round one with the offloads. I think we spoke about it on here. Their first up contact wasn't good enough, the Warriors. But ever since then, they've gone on a bit of a journey and got themselves in a good position to be able to compete now with the better teams. This is going to be a huge challenge. I know Origin's taken a few players out of play out of Canberra, the Raiders, and some out of the Warriors, but there's no excuses. This is the NRL. They've got to go get it. You mentioned RTS and Kurt Capewell and who's going to play centre and all that sort of nonsense, but was it a knock-on from Roger at the weekend? And then fast forward maybe a minute later, and Kurt Capewell is actually scoring a try off a Luke Metcalf grubber and regather and pass. That was, I think the commentary team of Fox, they said that's been a knock-on since 1908. And I'm inclined to agree.
I'm not sure how the officials missed that one, but look, I'm happy to get away with it, right?
I'll tell you what, Goran, I've been in those situations playing for the Warriors previously, and things have gone the other way. So sometimes, the game of rugby league gives you opportunities. You just roll with it and just score the try and kick on and let the crowd and the fans talk about what happened. And you'll get an apology from the NRL the next day saying, it should have been called a knock-on, but can't change the result of the game. So, yeah, I thought it was a knock-on and everyone else thought that. But, hey, rest didn't see it like that.
Is that an example of maybe the Warriors getting the rub of the green all of a sudden because they're so far up the ladder?
Well, I think this has been the past conversations too about if you're competing at the top consistently, typically in the game of rugby league, that's been shown in the past that you do get a bit of the rub of the green. When you're down the bottom and you're competing down the bottom with some of the lower teams and you're not getting the results you want, those 50-50 calls may go against you. And I feel like that's happened to the Warriors in the past, and I've been involved in those things where those calls have gone that way. So when you sit high on the table, you're playing a brand of football that the refs are obviously enjoying, the fans are enjoying, you're winning games, and normally, typically, the rub of the green, it goes your way.
What is the clash that is going to determine the outcome of the Warriors-Raiders match? Because we've spoken about through the middle, we've spoken about the left edge. When I look at the Raiders, for example, they make a lot of their meters out of their back five. Tamale has been an absolute revelation. He's come into first grade, and it looks like he's been there for 5-6 seasons. Kyo Weeks is somebody who is very dangerous from broken field. As soon as the Warriors don't show a strong defensive line, he will take advantage. And then you've got a couple of Kiwi centres in Seb Chris and Matthew Timoko who can tear you apart as well. So it's almost a case of there is so much X factor across both sides. Who's going to have the most X factor?
You said the right wordings there. I think when you talk about X factor, Canberra Raiders, that's what they have. They play a style of football where it's free flowing, but they know what it is that they're trying to achieve. Offloads, ball bounces on the ground, someone picks it up. A break from the backfield, Kyo Weeks gets the ball. A dummy half scoots straight through the middle of the park. There's always someone pushing around. Ethan Strange is there as well. So, Matt Timoko, who can find tries easily. You said him. Tamale, who's playing outstanding for a young kid. This Canberra Raiders team, really hard to understand the structure of their football. But they're a team that just scrap for everything, and that's the style of football they play. They attack you defensively, and they attack you through purely just being busy with the ball, spreading the ball and offload, creating opportunities. But on the flip side, I think when you think about the Warriors, they do have something similar. But they can fall into a bit of structure, and I guess the people that can make change and where the game can be won is mostly around the middle of the park with Wayde Egan in the two halves. I think Wayde Egan has been the most important player for me. And I know from the past, talking about the Warriors, him being in and out of the team and not having him on the field changes the landscape of the Warriors' attack purely because of his sleight of hand, his vision, his running meters, his understanding of the game, the way he brings players onto the
Blairy.
ball.
Preach, mate, preach.
The way he can connect from his middle to his spine to be able to give them the opportunities to play like they do. So,
basically the best 9 in the world.
Well, he's right up there. He's right up there right now. I think he's the most consistent 9 at the moment. And we'll get into it a bit later, but I think that's where the Warriors are going to be able to win this game through Wayde Egan, Luke Metcalf, and Chanel Harris-Tavita. Those three guys have played. I think they've played every game together this year, and I think this is why the Warriors have been so consistent. And you think about how this has happened in the past; it hasn't been like this. So when I think about how this game can be won, and if the Warriors are going to win it, it's going to be off the back of those three players.
I want to throw a hypothetical in the mix here for the moment because the last few weeks we've been talking about the Warriors' first choice back line, the Warriors' first choice back row. I want to go back in time to a time not that long ago, actually, just last season, where the Warriors had at their disposal Shaun Johnson, Tohu Harris, Addin Fonua-Blake. Three massive, massive names in the game of rugby league. Shaun Johnson, a former Kiwis halfback. Tohu Harris, a representative from bloody, day dot. Addin Fonua-Blake, one of the best props in the game. If those three were still at the Warriors, would they be 2 points from top in second spot on the NRL ladder? It's crazy to think that they've managed to improve so much given the loss of those talents, because Shaun Johnson makes way and they put in a guy who hasn't played a great deal of first grade and hasn't played halfback in Luke Metcalf, and he's guiding the team around the park like an absolute pro. Aaron Clark, gone through the mill. He's gone through the rugby league roller coaster, as you put it a few weeks back. He hasn't been a regular first grade starter. Comes to the Warriors. They lose Dylan Walker to the Eels, and he is one of their best players by a country mile, right? And in a team that is performing very well. So that is saying an awful lot about Aaron Clark. And when you come to the front row, yeah, of course you've got Mitch Barnett, but you always had him there alongside Addin. Addin makes way. James Fisher-Harris comes in, but we've only seen him for half of the season. So how have they done it? How have they managed to improve so much? And what position would the Warriors be in if they still had those guys? That's a long-winded question for you, Blairy, but, I mean, you know me. I'm sure you can pick the eyes out of that one.
Man, those three players you mentioned, Shaun, Addin and Tohu Harris, superstars. Superstars.
100%.
All played for New Zealand as well. All international players. Some of the best players in their position in this competition, the NRL. And when I think about what I will touch on firstly will be Shaun and Tohu. And then I'll talk about, obviously, what they're creating now with these young fellas. If I think about, if it's a hypothetical, Tohu being a little bit older, Shaun being a little bit older, Addin still being the beast he is. I think the biggest problem that the Warriors had with those boys, consistency on the field. Getting a bit older, bodies are worn out. Tohu Harris, for example, barely got through pre-season, had to call it quits. Shaun Johnson getting a little bit older, Achilles a bit sore, those kind of things. Carrying injuries through the season, in and out of the team, both him and Tohu. The one consistency in the names that you mentioned was Addin Fonua-Blake, played most of the games, being a big part of what the Warriors created. So when I think about, hypothetically, if they were still here, would they be in a similar position? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, purely because of what I just said. A little bit older for Tohu and Shaun. Bodies aren't up to where they were. These young guys are coming. Haven't missed a beat, haven't missed a game. They're solidified, I guess, the most important three players in a team, and they're building combinations, they're building connections. And the one thing that hasn't changed, and what they tried to look for last year, was who was going to be the seven, or who was going to be the partner for Shaun Johnson. And then when Shaun Johnson was out, they're trying to find someone else just to makeshift a role. So I don't think having those boys, hypothetically, they'd be in the same position, purely because I don't think they would have been on the field as much as these guys are now. And by having that consistency like they have now, they've put themselves in the shop window and competing at that highest level and sitting in the position that they are. So these three, I'm going to say they're young fellas, three young fellas, Wayde Egan, Luke Metcalf and Shania Harris-Tavita are just playing some outstanding football. But I think it's come off the back of, the man himself, Wayde Egan, touches the ball more than anyone on the field. His creativity, the way he sees things has helped those two younger players, and obviously the middle forward pack to free up the space for everyone else. So, you're hypothetical. I don't think those guys would make any difference to where they are now. I think the team that they have now, those three players, are doing an outstanding job.
And in the back end of Tohu's career, he was kind of like, it was almost like the Mr. Fix-It. And that probably meant that maybe the consistency wasn't as great. Yeah, the body was letting him down, but he was just almost used to plug holes in a sense. It was like, yeah, you can play some lock, or you can play on an edge, or play through the middle. And I mean, you'd know this better than me by a long way. The sort of regular minutes and games that you get in a specific position, that's going to make you feel so much more comfortable, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if this might be a big call for our fans, and I'm sure people will jump on here and comment as well. He reminds me of the way Simon Mannering used to play. Always consistent. They put their body on their body on the line for the game of rugby league, the teammates and the Warriors every single time they put the jersey on. They're smart footballers. They're hardworking, and they play typically 80 minutes every single game. And as they got on through their career, it slowly wore them out purely because of the warrior they were. They didn't want to let anyone down on the field. So when I think about Tohu Harris, I think about, how much he sacrificed himself to play the 80 minutes, like Simon Mannering, to give everything he had for the team. So to be able to move in different positions, he's played 6. He could have played anywhere on the field. Simon Mannering was exactly the same. You could have put Simon on the field in any position and he would never let you down. And Tohu Harris was quite similar. So those guys understand their role in the team, and being able to be consistent in all those positions. So although I thought it was pretty hard to try and be consistent in every position, those guys were freaks at it. They were Mr. Fix-It and Mr. Consistency. Consistent.
Shall we kick this off? Shall we start talking about Origin? Because look, you've said, and I think we've both gone on record as saying that he's one of the best hookers in the game at the moment. And I think it's an absolute crime that he's not in the New South Wales Origin squad. There, I said it. It's a criminal offence, and Laurie Daly needs to be arrested. He needs to be locked up and get somebody else in. Maybe Bellyache can take over the team on Origin 1, because leaving Wayde Egan out is one of the dumbest things I think I've seen. I mean, clearly it's going to help out the Warriors, because if you go into a Raiders game without James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Barnett, thank goodness you've got Wayde Egan, right? And he can help out Jackson Ford, Bunty and Tom and everybody else playing those middle roles. But what a silly move. I think, mate, I understand the toughness that Reece Robson plays with. And I understand the utility value of Connor Watson. I'm not dumb. I may appear stupid, but I understand that. But when you look at what Wayde Egan has done, he's elevated his game. He's running a lot more. But he is tough as well. I will not have it that he's not a tough player, because he's always rolling his sleeves up. He's nearly always at the top of the tackle count for the Warriors. What more can a guy do to get selected for a team? What more can he do? I don't know what more Wayde Egan could have done. What could he have done?
He can't. He can't have done any more. The Warriors are in a, where they're sitting second on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
And Wayde, and I said it all before, he's been a huge part of what the Warriors have done. You said it. He's been injury free. He hasn't had any concussions. His elbow's all taped up, ready to go. He's got a bit of mana tape on it, black armbands. I love it. I love to see it. But it's a hard one, I think, when everyone talks about Origin. I'm talking New South Welshman here, and I'm not either. I'm not anyone. They, like you said.
So this is a conversation that's not had in Queensland then?
This is not a conversation they had in Queensland. If you look at the people they've picked in the positions, and I know you said it before, you're not dumb.
People disagree with that. I've got to stick up for myself, though.
The players that they have picked, we would say that they're origin players. And what people think when you think of an origin player, especially a middle player, a forward, the nines play in the middle, you have to be really committed to going after the opposition. I'm not saying Wayde Egan's that. This is me jumping in the minds of some New South Wales coaching selectors, or even just a fan from afar, that they want players that are battle-hardened, tough, want to go after the opposition and hurt people. I don't know if Wayde Egan wants to hurt people. I don't think he has a bad bone in his body. You think of someone like Spencer Leniu or Mitch Barnett, for example. Would he have the same mindset that Mitch Barnett has or Spencer Leniu? I can't answer that.
He doesn't have to have that same mindset. He's a hooker, you know.
They've picked him Reece Robson. Maybe he's got a different mindset, and it's the mindset that they want as a New South Welshman or New South Wales player.
Let me ask you this, mate. Let me ask you this: is Harry Grant a tough bastard?
Two different teams, two different style of football teams.
It works for Queensland. It should work for New South Wales. And under a new coach, I would have thought maybe a new idea and possibly just, I don't know, on a hunch, recognising that Wayde Egan is central to what the Warriors are doing this season.
Two different style of coaching, two different mentalities, I think, when it comes to this origin. New South Wales have been getting bashed for a few years. They've been getting monstered from some of the worst Queensland teams, is what they've said in the past.
Yeah.
So they've flipped their mindset and gone for purely players that just want to go after this Queensland. That hate them. They won't come out and say that because then it just starts pumping it up in the media. But they're going for players that just hate the opposition, especially in the middle of the pack. So the guys that they've selected, that's where they've gone. Reece Robson, Spencer Leniu, Mitch Barnett. Mitch Barnett don't like the Queenslanders. He's going out to hurt someone. We've seen that in his first game that he jumped on the field. He was coming out of the line to whack someone in half.
He was frothing, wasn't he, at the opportunity?
I can't tell you that Wayde Egan has the same mentality. That's what I'm saying. You have to ask him. Have to ask him.
Okay.
Like I can't answer that question, but purely just watching what Reece Robson has and Mitch Barnett and Spencer Leniu and some of these players, Hamoli, those boys that are in and around that space, I see a different mindset with those guys. That's just my opinion. That's my thought.
Okay, yeah, and that's what you're on here for. That's why we're talking about it. But I feel very strongly, as you can probably tell, I feel like he's been gypped. And if you're not going to pick him now, you'll never pick him.
No, well, they're not looking for creativity. Goran. They're not looking for creativity.
Well,
obviously.
They've got that with Nathan Cleary, Mitch Moses, and
I think I said that last week around. They're going to leave the creativity to those guys outside of the middle of the pack. So someone like Reece Robson, he either passes or he runs. He doesn't try and have a bit of deception. He doesn't want them to be tricky. He doesn't like to drop people underneath and those things. That's not his job. His job is to purely, you lead the line speed, you get your body in front, you pass the ball to the people that need the ball and let those flash outside backs create those things. So I think it's a different game style that doesn't suit Wayde Egan's football.
Yeah.
They're gone for a tougher style of football for Origin. Purely, they're going to win this. They're going to win this New South Wales. That's what they're looking for. So the style of football is let's bash them through the middle and let our X factors from the halves out create that moment or create the football so that they can score points.
I feel as though it's only a recent change, though, in style because
definitely
Apisai Coruscant has played very recently for New South Wales, and I think back to Andrew Johns. Yeah, he would play in the halves, but he was also named to play at hooker on the odd occasion. So you would have a creative deception master in that role, but now all of a sudden you just got to be a tough middle.
See, season 1, Goran, on our podcast, Madge Maguire, and we spoke about the typical player that Madge is looking for. We said Mitch Barnett. I said he would be someone that Madge would go for. I think Madge has changed the way of thinking for the New South Wales, is that this is the type of player you need to have in your team if you're going to win, especially in the middle of the park, if you're going to try and win this Origin series. So I think, like you said, yes, it only has been recent because Uppy used to play. Yeah. But I feel like it's changed because of Madge, and he's given them the blueprint to go, hey, these are the type of forwards you need to have your creativity out wide, and everything else would look after themselves. So we can blame Madge for Wayde Egan not being selected into the New South Wales Blues Origin team for 2025.
Stuff you, Madge. Do you have any tough guys at the Broncos, Michael Maguire? Because, geez, they're finding it pretty tough at the moment. Look, let's go through some of our other Origin selections. Obviously, Mitch Barnett was a shoo-in. Kurt Capewell, he was one of these guys that we'd spoken about previously. Inconsistent form, inconsistent positioning as well, because he was playing a little bit of back row. And, I mean, at the weekend, we saw him up against Herbie Farnworth and do a really good job in the centres on a fast, dry track. But even though he put in a really good performance at the right time, it just wasn't ever going to be enough for Kurt Capewell. And we've spoken about his defensive deficiencies outside of that Dolphins performance, and he leads missed tackles for the competition. So I can't imagine Billy Slater would have gone, well, look, I like his versatility, but yeah, we can probably do without that, the defensive liability. So I can understand Kurt Capewell missing out, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell, right? Because Luke Metcalf is one for the future, and Jackson Ford was out with concussion, and he's probably another one for the future as well.
Yeah, no, it's always a tough, obviously, conversation for us trying to get these guys into their thoughts, and they deserve to be thought about. And I think everyone that we spoke about has played a big part in what they've done this year for the Warriors, and obviously Kurt Capewell, who's missed the fix-it for the Warriors right now. Yes, he's missed a lot of tackles in the competition and leading that. But he's a competitor, and I think that's what saves him a lot of the times, is that he puts himself in these positions on the field that typically you don't think a back rower that's playing centre can do, but he actually finds ways to get it done. So, and I'm guessing that's why Coach Webster loves what he does, because he actually helps fill up these gaps, these gaps that the Warriors have at the moment. So, Jackson Ford definitely something for the future if he stays the way he's saying it. I think he's that style of footballer. I definitely think he's an Origin style of football. Tough, works hard, goes after the opposition, and hopefully, Luke Metcalf in the future is going to be a big part of that. So, unfortunately for those boys, but fortunately enough that the Warriors get to keep him, because there's a big game ahead for those, and those boys will definitely head down, bum up, and put themselves right in the picture in the future for sure.
Just before we get into Betcha This Happens, which I'm dreading, by the way, after last week's performance, we saw Kurt Capewell partner up with Dallin Watene-Zelezniak at the weekend, and I found it quite interesting because the Dolphins only really struck the Warriors very, very late in that game to make a go of it. So they were very defensively sound, but I noticed on a few Warriors message boards that people were quite upset and a little bit worried about Dallin jamming in all the time. Now, it's something that he's got in his game. Yeah. I wonder, and this is something that you and I have spoken about. I remember being in the green room out at Sky Sport, maybe halftime leading into halftime in one of the games that we were covering, and you were trying to explain to us that it's not just an individual's decision to jam. It's a case of everything is out of alignment, if you like. Like someone's gone early, further in field, and so the decision is then taken out of Dallin's hands. Now, on the odd occasion at the weekend, do you think it was him just doing it instinctively, or him doing it because he had to, given what was happening further inside?
Oh, that was when they were a man down, eh?
Yeah, and obviously that doesn't help matters, does it?
It doesn't help. And I guess what happens when you become a little bit isolated out wide and you feel like something's going to happen, you try and solve things on your own. And I get it. We've spoken about it before. You said it. The fans would be talking about this a lot, because Dallin has a tendency to do these things at least once a game. But when Dallin gets it right, there's either an intercept moment because he's up nice and high. The one thing that obviously I think saves Dallin a lot, and I don't think the Dolphins game you can go off, because they were down a man. So they're trying to solve things really quickly under pressure in this game. And the Dolphins have got some strike weapons all through their team. Obviously got some nice sleight of hands through Cody, who'd be fine with those boys out wide. But I think when Dallin gets it right, he's defending up nice and high. He's in the line. So if they do pass the ball over the top, he's got a lot of trust inside when you've got all your men intact. And then he sits in between the pass. So that's why we see Dallin get a lot of intercepts. So I think this was this game under a bit of pressure where something happened through the middle of the park. He's decided, I'm going to go try and solve this. I think sometimes for wingers, your system will always outweigh your individual thought. So if they stay inside their system, stay inside their processes, and allow the middles or allow the people inside you to work towards you and just scramble, because that's what you have to do when you're a man down. You just got to scramble. Sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes it's not the system, but sometimes you just got to scramble to make those tackles. But coming flying in from the wing, normally there's going to be an opportunity out wide for someone. So I think, Big Dallin, he'll try and obviously hold his nerve a little bit more, and hopefully be better positioned so that they're not doing that. But it happened because there's a man down and everyone's scrambling to try and make things work.
For the people querying his approach, I would sort of ask them, well, what do you want to see instead?
Yeah.
And is it Dallin on the wing with a change in approach, or is it not Dallin on the wing? And then if it's not him, who is it? We've seen Taine Tuopiki play a reasonable role out on the wing. Edward Corsi can come in and do a job. Two very, very different kinds of wingers, it must be said. Like, of the three, I still feel most confident in what Dallin Watene-Zelezniak can do, and given his ability to finish. And as you say, like when he does come up, it's not only the option of an intercept, but he can also blindside a centre and force a turnover as well. So I would prefer to see Dallin, and I think the other thing that we also need to consider is that he has stuff all rugby league under his belt since recovering from that wrist injury. So let's cut him a little bit of slack for all the haters out there, and let him get some miles in the legs, eh?
Well, I think sometimes, you've seen a lot of this stuff in the past from Dallin, but I think, again, highlighted on the back of this performance from being a man down, I think sometimes that can put a lot of pressure on your defensive line. Yes, I thought for most of that game, the Warriors were pretty sound defensively. As soon as they lost James Fisher-Harris to the bin, that's when things started to unravel. You're playing, like I said earlier, you're playing against a quality attacking side, like, with Isaiah Katoa and Cody Nikodemu, and then those outside backs that can strike from there, Herbie and Hamaso. So, you have one man down against a strong 13 attacking team, it's going to be hard to defend. So, I think Dallin's the right man for the job, and 9 times out of 10, Dallin gets it right. Hasn't had much football under his belt, but put him for most of the parts of the game, didn't get a foot wrong. It's only got highlighted at the end of the game when they started coming back and everyone started twitching a little bit and standing up off their couch and must be screaming at the television saying, don't jam, don't jam. And luckily, like Warriors fashion, kept everyone on the edge of their seats.
Yeah. Goodness, man. That toe through from Jack Bostock could have gone anywhere, eh? If it stays in field, then it's all over. And all of a sudden, we're not talking about 5 in a row. We're sort of like duking it out with the Raiders this weekend for second spot. But, like the rugby league gods were smiling. And that means that this weekend, should the Warriors win, they actually put 4 points between themselves and third spot, which is... Gosh, what a comfortable, wonderful position for the Warriors to be in. And as I'm talking, and we mentioned, other wing options, if you're not going to pick Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, should I have mentioned Wets, Adam Pompey? Because when Ali Leotawa and Rocco Berry are fit, and if Andrew Webster believes that they are the preferred centre combination, do you have to... You've probably got to find a place for Adam Pompey in the team, don't you?
Well, I see they've been very lucky, this year that they've been able to keep the right players on the field at the right time, and then an injury will come along, and then you're replacing them with the exact players that you wanted in the team. So I think, they've been fortunate enough that the players that get injured obviously perform well, but there's also players sitting below them and actually great players as well. And there's players then at New South Wales Cup level that are, itching to get an opportunity. Tom Ali, who's named on the extended bench. You've seen Jacob Laban that's getting some extra time now on the field. So all these players down below are obviously putting pressure on this NRL team, and it's great to see. But someone like Tane Tuopiki, he sits back and just watches now. Who I would have said didn't let anyone down in his time on the field.
Mate, he's not sitting back watching. If he is watching, he's watching his phone and all the calls coming in from Western Australia.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
hang on, are they allowed to call him yet?
with this new team coming in, going, man, they want to lock in some of these young kids back home in New Zealand, because they'll be knocking on the door real quickly. They can start training, I think, at the end of the year. They're going into their season, so he's put himself in the box seat. But this is an exciting time. Exciting time. Some players ready to go, creating opportunities up against a quality Canberra side. Man, this is one not to be missed for all the fans.
Look, there it is. The grin, the smile, the laugh. Yeah, go on, mate. Take the piss. Betcha this happens it was the worst it's ever been last week.
Right.
I think I got 2 from 8.
Like, how?
Oh, I'm an idiot, and the NRL is unpredictable.
You got to find another way. But I'll tell you what, 5 games, surely I'll find a way to muck it up again. You're right. Because it's Origin, there's only 5 games, more chance of getting it right. Although, in a way, it kind of becomes more unpredictable because teams have got players missing, and are they going to be good, bad, indifferent? Look, we'll give it a shot. Time for Betcha This Happens for whatever round it is, round 12. You can tell I'm really enthusiastic about this. Start off with the Bulldogs and the Dolphins. The Dogs are missing Max King. They're missing Mr. Crichton in the centres. They'll still beat the Dolphins. Are you happy with that one? Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Coach. Eels against the Seagulls on Friday night. Manly will win this one. Because, look, the reason I say that is we've seen what Mitch Moses can do to that side, and he's not there. He's playing 6 for New South Wales, and Zach Lomax is also there for the Blues. So Manly Seagulls without Daly Cherry Evans win that one. Panthers and the Knights. Panthers have so many players out, but then so too do your mob. No Ponga, no Best. Who else is missing from the Knights?
Greg Marju still out through, obviously. There could be Jacob Saifidi as well.
Oh, okay.
I think on the back of the news from after the game about his calf. So they're down some strike power for sure.
So what am I going to do?
And some leaders.
What I'm going to do, Blairy, is I'm going to go into my son's money bag. There's just one $2 coin. Allow me to open this up, because I have no idea, and you have no idea who's going to win the Panthers and the Knights.
I'm saying tail for the Knights.
Tails is the Knights, and we have a tail. So we're going your Knights to beat the Panthers.
Let's go the mighty Knights.
Paying $2.90 as well. That's going to bolster the multi. Roosters and the Sharks. The Sharks will be too strong there, paying $1.33. And the Waz and the Raiders, Blairy, even though they're without Fish, without Barney, and the Raiders are almost full strength, bar Mr. Hudson Young. I'm picking the Waz, and that is a 5-leg multi, paying $13.74. Maybe I'll put $5 on that, eh?
Oh, let's go. Now you're having a crack. You can make up for all the other 11 rounds that you've just got nothing.
Yeah, $5 for 5 games for round 12. Pays out $68.70, mate. So when you're in New Zealand next time, which I think might be next week,
That's right.
I'll take you out for a Wendy's dinner.
Hey, and don't forget, we've got to do this too next week, so we might be next to each other. We might be next to each other on Tuesday night.
I might just have to give you a cuddle.
Oh, I'll bring my gear. We'll get on together, and we'll just keep this show rolling.
Brilliant, mate. I look forward to it very much. Blairy, as always, a pleasure to be in your company for League of Our Own. Remember, if you're watching or you're listening, make sure you subscribe, you follow us, you like our videos, and tell your friends about a couple of Kiwi lads talking Kiwi Rugby League. And we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Blairy, I look forward to our passionate embrace next week, mate.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to get home first and foremost, to be in our, my country, but also to see your face again, Goran. And as always, thank you everyone for tuning in, and keep liking, subscribing, and chucking down your comments for all of us. You might see my name pop up now and then answering a lot of those questions too, guys. So appreciate you, fellas.